Hello and welcome to the Pregame Network News Hole, a series where we recap a few things we heard throughout the week. Not necessarily everything and all the big news you'd expect, but a few things we heard and thought were interesting. This episode is for the week of January 5th, 2025. Let's get started. On Friday, January 10th, Square Enix released a group customer harassment policy on their business site. The new policy served as a warning to all of their existing and potential customers about actions they would no longer be tolerating, with threats of legal action or denial of service as punishment. While the list of examples contains some reasonable acts to penalize, like physical violence, stalking, and trespassing, the bulk of the list was made up of vague and somewhat questionable examples, such as discriminatory speech, persistent inquiries, defamation, slander, denial of a person's dignity or personal attacks, unreasonable demands for changes or exchange of a product, unreasonable demands for responses or apologies, and unreasonable and excessive demands for punishment of employees. While it makes sense to protect people from bodily harm, physical harassment, and other illegal actions, the bulk of the list is made up of completely legal acts or terms with loose definitions that can be easily stretched to fit completely legal acts. The new policy follows a handful of events that saw the company facing criticism and ridicule, such as when asking modders to not add lewd modifications to the upcoming PC release of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, or when they were confronted about censoring Dragon Quest III through its 2D HD re-release, or when reacting to the mixed reception of the latest Final Fantasy XIV expansion, Dawn Trail, which saw lead director and producer Naoki Yoshida reacting in a distressed manner towards any criticism aimed at his team or some of the more volatile English voice actors, something he was quick to exaggerate the severity of. While the roots of this move appear to be in changes to Japanese legislation, and while it's unlikely that the company is going to take action against every complaint they see on official forums and social media, companies and their employees are no stranger to exaggerating claims in order to unjustly frame innocent people while absolving themselves of all wrongdoing in situations of any scale. And if their recent reactions and their long-term responses to player feedback are anything to go by, the company, its employees, and its partners are likely to abuse this new policy wherever possible. During their CES conference on Tuesday, January 7th, Sony announced 3 new video game adaptations, with live-action films for both Helldivers 2 and Horizon Zero Dawn, alongside an anime series for Ghost of Tsushima titled Ghost of Tsushima Legends. These announcements add to Sony's already growing slate of adaptations from the various video game franchises under the PlayStation banner. The live-action Until Dawn film is set to release later this year, and Ghost of Tsushima already had one of its own announced back in 2021. On the TV series front, both The Last of Us and Twisted Metal have aired a single season, and yet to be announced are supposed film projects for Days Gone and Gravity Rush, which have leaked out over the years, all of which add to a catalog already featuring an Uncharted live-action film and the Ratchet & Clank animated film. Video game adaptations in television and film have had a spotty history, not just in quality but in actually getting off the ground. And while that has changed in recent years with franchises like Mario and Sonic getting successful movies, there is a long history of not-so-successful ventures, like the BioShock film, which, after a decade in development hell, was announced to have a drastically reduced budget and scope, or the Sleeping Dogs film, which, after years of silence, was quietly announced to have been cancelled just this week, or the Kingdom Hearts TV series, which just never took off, or even the Sly Cooper film, which was handled in such a questionable fashion that there's still some confusion as to whether or not he was even announced in the first place. Sony's initiatives, while questionable in quality and focus, are the first large-scale effort that should, at the very least, continue to offer consistency in releases, with an aggressive push to get cinematic video games into actual cinema. As for quality, well, anyone who loves the medium knows how this normally goes. Ubisoft faced a slew of tough news throughout the week as it confronts an uncertain future. Assassin's Creed Shadows, the game everyone is watching as a make-or-break release for the company's recovery and potential new success, faced another major delay, being pushed back a month to March 20th, and many are taking this as a sign of panic, as while the first delay only happened due to months of critique and criticism, in amounts the series has never received before, the second is more likely the result of inner turmoil from a struggling team and unstable leadership at the top level. At the same time, the company announced that it had appointed a group of leading advisors that Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot says will review and pursue options to extract the best value for stakeholders and position Ubisoft for a stronger future. He also stated that he's confident that there are several potential paths for the company to take going forward. As for who the advisors are and what paths he thinks the company can take, he didn't say. But based on statements to potential buyers, it's likely that he and his family are prioritizing their position of control in the creative and management process for whatever lies ahead for Ubisoft and its various underutilized brands. And that does it for another week of the Pre-Game Network News Hole. If you encounter anything you think we'd find interesting throughout the following weeks, send it our way. Thank you for listening. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.